Good evening and thanks for joining us. It's now well established that wearing a mask, especially in indoor public places, reduces the risk of spreading COVID-19. And tonight we have a sense of what Canadians think about it. According to an Ipsos poll conducted exclusively for Global News, most Canadians support making mask wearing mandatory, though it depends where you live and there's an urban-rural divide. 80% of urban dwellers say they support mandatory masks, compared to 67% of Canadians who live in rural areas. Canadians have so far done a good job at limiting the spread of the virus, but numbers are creeping up in some places, and we only have to look south to see how bad things can get. Abigail Bimman has our top story on Canadian attitudes to public health rules.
Masks on during this couple's grocery shop.
I think we're all in.
Them. Yeah. Yes.
As we get older, I think I'm in.
Turns out they feel the same as most Canadians. New Ipsos polling done for Global News shows 79% support mandatory masks in public places. Support is highest in Manitoba and Saskatchewan at 84% and lowest in Atlantic Canada, just 64%.
I think everybody's feeling safe because of how easy we've had it compared to, America or some of the other parts of Canada.
People who are living in urban and suburban areas are more fearful and are more desirous of things like wearing masks or potentially closing down again than people who live in rural areas.
The virus is still in the community.
Living in rural Manitoba, virologist Jason Kinderchuk understands that divide, but says everyone needs to be aware there's still a risk. And he says that risk still exists outdoors, even though Ipsos found people are far less likely to leave their mask on outside.
Yes, there's some data to suggest that outdoors there's less risk. But we have to understand that ultimately we have to remove that ability of the virus to be able to transmit. And if we put people in close proximity, that's what's going to happen.
Close proximity, like at this Toronto restaurant. An investigation is now underway. In Montreal, COVID-19 test lineups last hours. Public Health asking anyone who's been to a bar since July 1st to get one. There have been at least 30 cases linked to 9 bars.
I don't think there's any social distancing happening.
And as companies around the world, including Canadian ones, race to create a vaccine to eradicate COVID-19, Ipsos found 72% of Canadians support making vaccinations mandatory.
I think that's the way to go. And that's the reason why we keep saying, and the government keeps saying, until we get a real effective vaccine, we have to continue maintaining these measures.
Experts we spoke with are cautiously optimistic we could see a vaccine in 2021. Meanwhile, the Ipsos polling shows 77% of Canadians believe a second wave will hit their community before then, in the fall. Abigail Bimman, Global News, Ottawa.
Calgary and Banff are considering making mask wearing mandatory in indoor public spaces as the number of new cases in Alberta keeps creeping up. More than 40% of the province's active cases now are in Calgary. The mayor has warned the city could make masks mandatory in all public indoor spaces if more Calgarians don't start wearing them. The province is distributing millions of non-medical masks, and Alberta's chief medical officer of health strongly recommends wearing them. In Banff, Town Council has asked for a bylaw to be drafted that would require visitors to cover their faces in the downtown area and in enclosed public spaces. The draft bylaw isn't expected to be brought back to Council until early August.